Well, welcome back to a live social here. I'm Ben Pankinen, and I am excited about sharing another social live with Social Assurance. Today, we are going to be talking with my friend Eric Cook. So, welcome, Eric, to the first social live. Hi, Eric.
How's it going?
Hey, we are going to be talking about building relationships in social media and such a fun time. Eric, we were just reminiscing earlier today about the last time we were together, and you sent me the photo.
There we
There we
are.
were. and it seems like forever ago, but we were there in person, like just a couple months ago.
Put that back up. Look how close we were. Look at that.
There was
I
no
think
social distancing
I,
happening
I
there.
think we even had our arms around each other at that point. Yeah. So no masks. And as many compliments as I got on that shirt, because it is a kind of a crazy shirt. I just wanted to make sure I revealed the shirt that I'm wearing, and it's very subtle. But what's that little symbol right there? What is that?
Little yeah, I was talking with our designer one day when we were putting that together, and I said, do you think somehow it could we could get that to like drop in on the side of a coffee mug? Like everybody loves coffee,
Oh yeah.
and it's been a hit.
It has. And I get people that see it and they're like, "Oh, that's a really cool coffee." And I'm like, okay, they don't know banking. They don't understand. It doesn't even, and then I turn around and like, what's social assurance? I thought that was a coffee shop. And so, yeah. So you don't even know that I'm giving you publicity when I'm wearing this, but it's all good. So it's cool to be on the show. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, we've been trying this show out for the last month, and we wanted to have you on here because I mean, it's just great to catch up. Even in the brief time we caught up this morning, we covered a broad range of like new tech subjects. We covered some hobbies that you and I share, some personal interest, dogs. We've covered kind of the spectrum here, and so I think that's a lot of fun. But for a lot of people that may be joining either this for the first time, they may not know you, Eric Cook. It's hard to believe that if they're in banking, they wouldn't know who you are. But if they don't, you sort of started out as a banker, right?
I
Years
did.
ago. You've come from a family of bankers,
Yep. My
right?
dad did it. He was a community banker for 33 years. And I didn't have any intention of going into banking. I graduated from college and took a temporary kind of job. Things didn't work out there. So I came home and one of the board members said, well, would Eric think about coming in and helping us with some stuff? So it was just going to be a short-term gig, and it ended up being a 15-year-long career. And I got the opportunity to do pretty much everything in the bank. Teller for 3 years, and marketing and HR and compliance and lending. The only thing I stayed out of, I think, was largely due to my teller balancing capabilities, was the bookkeeping department. So they said, let's give this guy some crayons and some colors and let him go do the marketing thing. But I fell in love with technology, and a buddy of mine just started a dial-up internet service provider way back in the day. And I hung out with him for a bit, and he taught me some HTML, and I started building websites, and we launched marshallsavings.com, which doesn't exist anymore, without a risk assessment or a board approval or budget. I just said, I think we need a website, and the rest is history. So that was a lot of fun. I'd get you fired today, so I don't recommend doing it. But back then in the mid 90s, nobody even knew really what a website was. And it was fun to be right at the cutting edge.
So you got to come clean with us. When you were building a website in the mid 90s, did you use one of those men at work with a shovel GIF sort of thing? Did you ever use that?
I
You
don't
did,
know
didn't
as if
you?
I don't know as if I used that one, but there was probably under construction sawhorse with some lights on it at some point. So everybody had those. That was cool back then.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yep. Did my
Awesome.
development in a platform called Sausage Software by Hot Dog, which I've met one person that's even known what that is. So I don't know if anybody on this live stream is of that mindset, but that's old school content editing. So
We had yeah,
Nick,
Nicholas is saying, yeah, he used it on
nice.
his first website. I did too. I did too. It was kind of self-taught. I was in
Yeah.
high school. I remember making a website, and I had that same icon on there. So yeah, we've got a bunch of fans out there of you. Eric, kind of jumping in here
What's
and
up, Craig?
sharing. Yeah.
So
So
very
so
cool.
but yeah, so you were a dropout, right? Like let's face it, you were a dropout banker, turned into a web developer, marketer, and like you said, you started using the colors and some creativity kind of coming into this um, agency, if you will. And now, tell us a little bit about what you do with WSI.
Sure.
What does that look like now?
Yeah. So when I made the decision that I didn't want to be the CEO of a publicly traded bank, which was the next step, I wanted to stay in the trenches and work on the fun stuff. And not to say that anybody that's CEO of a publicly traded bank doesn't do fun stuff, but that just wasn't my cup of tea. I came into and became part of WSI, which is a global agency network that's been around since 1995. We've got offices like ours in 80 countries around the world. There's about 1,000 of us that are all independently owned and operated businesses under the WSI flag. And so as an ecosystem, we get the tools to do what we do for all of our customers. And I've just chosen to niche myself in the banking space. And so we serve mostly community banks, and we have a couple of nonprofits that we do some work for, but our bread and butter is community banks, web development, digital marketing, social media, online strategy, strategic direction, and support that a lot, although not right now. Yours was the last that I got to enjoy. A lot of conferences. I teach at banking schools, participated in WSI's Digital Minds book, which is now in its 3rd edition. And I've been a contributing author in all 3 of those editions, which has been great to share thought leadership and ideas and just digital strategy. And I sometimes just get to play on the internet for a living and help bankers do all the fun stuff that they should be doing. And I say fun, it's legitimate business, strategy. But to me, it's
Sure.
I just love it, and it's a lot of fun. So
Well, I hope we can share some of those fun things that you've got going on. I know you've been working a lot, lately on some new stuff too. So you get to kind of work in this digital space where things are moving quickly, but you've also got some hobbies. You're calling in from where now today with a paddle in the background. In fact,
yep.
My friend Patrick says, "Hey, nice paddle out there." Where are you rowing from today,
Where am I
Eric?
rowing from? So we've got a little cottage. It has been in my wife's family for a number of years, way before I was in the family. And it was her grandparents' place. And when Grandma and Grandpa passed, it went to her mom, and we were able to buy it off the family and keep it in the family. So we're at the south shore of Houghton Lake, Michigan, which is Michigan's largest inland body of water. It's a beautiful day out there, and probably going to be doing a cocktail cruise on the pontoon after the show is over. But Michigan has opened up the northern parts this weekend for Memorial Day, and so looking forward to seeing some family up here and kind of watching it gradually progress back to normalcy, whatever that looks like. So I'm a lake dweller now.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've got a good spot, and like Amber says, lake life is the best life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm envious of the lake life right now. That sounds gorgeous. I am actually back to our office today because
All
I've
by
been going with my
yourself.
wife. Well, I am all by myself here today, so there's no sound distractions, but yeah, it's kind of nice to be out of the house for a little bit of time.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I want to talk with you a little bit about what this has meant, for those of us in digital tools and really working with digital strategies. What's this change or shift meant in sort of moving from, the sort of like traditional materials a lot of time to now everything's virtual.
Yeah. Well,
What's that
it's
felt?
funny. We've been, and I know you've been preaching it from the pulpit as well, but we've been talking about the digital evolution for a number of years. And with the global pandemic, shelter in place, lobbies are closed, everybody's binging Netflix and going online and getting all of their information electronically. A lot of the bankers that we've talked to that maybe have embraced more of a conservative approach to digital ads or paid search, display, SEO, any of the things that we've been beating the drum about have now started to come around because COVID has caused them to sit up and take notice. And, one of the slides with one of our internal webinars that we've done here in WSI, our founder posed the question, who's leading the digital transformation in your organization? Is it the CEO? Is it the CTO? Is it the marketing director? Or is it COVID-19? Because we're having to shift and adjust, and consumers are evolving. I think the workforce is evolving. And I've been saying that the genie's out of the bottle. Customers now are accustomed to the conveniences. Businesses are accustomed to the flexibility of allowing employees to work from home. I know a lot of businesses and consultants that are terminating their lease agreements and saying, there's no reason we need to have office space. So we've been productive, our employees. I know it's a little outside of the scope of today's conversation, but that creates risk for banks that have got loans on commercial property that might not be occupied in 2020 and beyond because people are changing their workforce. But for our purposes, the ways that we connect with one another through digital technology and social media and the relationships, it's not to say that a good old handshake and a hug at a conference isn't important, because it is, but we now have to figure out ways to build these relationships and enhance them electronically through platforms like this and what you're doing, and LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and all these other platforms. And we have to figure out a way as a bank to be comfortable bringing that into our organization and allowing our employees and training them on the right and wrong ways to do it, and the compliance potholes that we want them to not step in, and being able to be that. My dad said, when I started in banking, he says, if you're going to be successful, you'll figure out people want to bank with you because you're their banker, not because you work at the bank. That's the relationship, and people get to know you, and they're going to need to get to know you electronically. They're going to need to get to follow you. I mean, if we're connected, we talk, but I love to mountain bike and I love golden retrievers, and you'll probably see some paddleboard pontoon pictures, but you get to know me that way through social media and through the pictures and the information that I'm sharing. I don't spend a lot of time preaching about web development and social advertising campaigns, because nobody wants to hear that. They need to get to know me as a person, you as a person, you as bankers. And then when they know and like and trust you, that's when you're getting an opportunity to serve them. And that's what we need to be taking advantage of today, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I connect with you in part because I watch your golden retrievers, right?
They're the best part anyway. They're way cuter than I am.
You gave me the best jersey for mountain biking that I have. So that's what I wear when I go biking. And so I think of Eric, right? So, I think the digital and online are, they're not exclusive, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But the other thing I wanted to ask is, Microsoft CEO last quarter, when he was announcing their quarterly earnings, which were through the roof, he said, we've gone through 10 years of digital transformation in a month.
Yeah.
Describing that first month. How have you seen that really progress for banks so far?
Well, I'll give you one example. we got a small little community bank that we work with out in Kansas, and I don't know where the CEO came up with the idea, but we're corporate partners with a messaging platform called Mobile Monkey. They do primarily Facebook chat bots, but recently they rolled out omni-channel capabilities, which just gives you the ability to text. And the CEO came to the marketing director and said, I want to be able to send text messages to all my PPP customers and tell them what's going on. I don't want to do email. I don't want to just put it on our website. Nobody's going to pay attention to that. I want to text them, get right in front of their face. And he challenged all their commercial lenders to get the text mobile numbers for all of their customers. And it was on the application too. But they got their permission and said, by the end of the day, I want a platform to do this. And there was no, I don't want to say there wasn't discussion or thought about it, because I'm sure it was there, but it wasn't like a traditional, and we got to have a vendor management agreement, and we got to do a privacy audit, and we got to get copies of all of their documentation, and we got to get a copy of their business resumption and continuity plan. He already did that risk assessment and said, I am willing to go to someone I trust and bring us a platform where I can share just a cell phone number to communicate with my customers and keep them informed. And if something happens where a cell phone number may get leaked or whatever, I'm willing to absorb that risk. And I trust that there's platforms out there that can keep that information safe. And we deployed that platform in under 24 hours, and they were texting their customers, letting them know what's going on. The bulk of the information was on the bank's website and their blog. So they were just sending a text to say, hey, application's been updated. Hey, here's some answers to some questions. Hey, they just released the application for forgiveness. And the text message goes out, the business owner gets it and doesn't consume all the information in the text message, but they come back to the website and they read. So we've been talking about blog content and text messaging and conversational marketing. And it was this like sudden, like you said, 10 years of acceleration crammed into a month. I need to text, I need to communicate, I need to share, and I need it done today. And that would have never happened had this global pandemic shift business influx. And they've been very successful at keeping their customers informed. And they're going to evolve that into a way to keep them informed of community events and security alerts and mortgage rates, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of things that they can do with that because of the power of text messaging and direct one-to-one communication. And I don't think we would have seen that had that not been the case.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And you're pointing to that one-to-one communication is huge. I think, the rapid pace, we're innovating out of necessity in banking right now.
Yep.
But it's healthy. And I think it's really encouraging to watch, a lot of banks doing some really creative stuff right now.
Yeah. We've seen, we're friends with a lot of the same people with, drive up banking and, just other sorts of cool ways to service customers outside of the box, things that are getting done in a week that would have taken months. So it's the bankers that can embrace it. Now, granted, it's also probably equally as frustrating and challenging and daunting to a lot of bankers that this is not in their sweet spot. And if they don't have a good team around them, I can understand where it's probably a really stressful time for a lot of folks in the industry. And, I feel bad about that because not everybody's prepared to jump on board and just start pedaling their bike, not knowing where they're going to go. But that's what you had to do in a lot of instances.
Yeah. Now, as someone, you're one of those leaders in this industry coming in and exercising some thought leadership. I've learned a lot from you at conferences, when we're texting, when we're calling, in a lot of different ways. But right now, obviously, I showed the photo of us the last time we were at a conference together, which seems like it was 10 years ago, but it was just about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And even at that conference, we were talking about, things are starting to look different on planes right now. Like it's starting to, there's starting to get to be some anxiety about this. And here we are now at a spot where we're not traveling. So how are you reaching out and connecting with bankers, and how is that sort of community of bankers really changing for you in this time?
Well, I'm fortunate. I work with a handful of state associations, and I get to facilitate their marketing forums. And normally, those are great events where I get to be on site with several dozen bank marketers in a room, just brainstorming and talking about all sorts of marketing stuff. Those have moved virtually for security reasons and health reasons, obviously. So there's a lot of webinar stuff. I'm not leveraging live video as much as you are, but I do a weekly webinar show over at Free Webinar Wednesdays. And I've been interviewing a lot of the other book authors on Digital Minds and just talking about different digital strategies and sharing some insights. So that's been good. And with me not traveling, normally I have to cancel about every other Free Webinar Wednesdays because it's live and I'm on a plane or someplace. So it's been nice to be able to keep the momentum going with that. But there's a new initiative that I have been working on, and I got inspired back in 2018 when I attended my first social media marketing world by Social Media Examiner out in San Diego. And I heard a guy by the name of Pat Flynn. He inspired me to come up with a concept that is a community focused on like-minded individuals, kind of a mentorship, community discussion, learning environment. And it's been on the back burner for 2 years. And it took a global pandemic to get me off my butt to actually put it together. And everybody on the team said, wouldn't it have been nice to have had this like 3 months ago? But it's better late than never. So this is like exclusive. I've not told anybody other than you in the pre-show, but we are releasing a community portal, mentorship program, whatever you want to call it. But thelinkedbanker.com. Say that again,
Okay.
thelinkedbanker.com. It's not just LinkedIn, but the whole concept around it is a community that we can embrace where bankers that want to figure out how they can leverage digital technology and social media and online tools, like all the fun stuff you and I talk about. But how can bankers leverage that information and be able to do it while maintaining compliance and privacy, but being able to serve their customers, serve their community, benefit their banks, and become that banker that people want to have a relationship with. So if you, I see you got it up there. If you visit The Linked Banker, there's a couple of buttons on there where you can join the waiting list. That'll get your name into a file that we'll be using to communicate. And we're excited about it. We've got some early feedback from folks. We've talked to some of the associations that we've done stuff with and some of the schools that I teach at, and it is designed to complement those folks, not to compete with them. But I'm just excited about building an ecosystem of like-minded bankers, whether it's on the marketing side, the sales side, and sharing content and teaching things and being available for questions. And, without being able to do that in person, we're shifting our business just like everybody else is, to be able to maintain that connection and to help add value and to help bankers compete and do what they need to do to move forward. So we're pretty excited. You got the scoop. So you've heard it here first.
Well, I feel like this is the place to launch new things now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm excited to check it out. Pasted the link up there, so it'll be there. Some people are chatting about it over here as well. So that's awesome. Getting some signups already, so that's fun to see. But I think what I'm excited about is you're developing community, and I think developing community, putting that thought leadership. One of the things we talk about in community banking, and in fact, Tim Martinson was just sharing here. In fact, he's going to be on next Thursday. He started this group called Social Bankers, with a few other bankers, and really to say, hey, how do we collaborate and you and I are both sharing a lot of ideas with Tim, and I think
Yeah.
it's personally been a fantastic group for me because I have so much to learn in that process, and I might be able to go share some things from visiting Facebook, or some things like that maybe a lot of bankers don't get to spend time doing. But I'm learning a ton from them, and Diane's just chiming in, and I saw Emily was on there, Jennifer, a bunch of people. But I think it's beautiful to see that kind of come together. So the Linked Banker is your latest thing. So you're
Yes.
going to be injecting thought leadership into there, but there's also a component, right, where we can kind of collaborate.
Yeah, so we're going to build. So we're leveraging a platform that I learned about through social media marketing world. A lot of digital marketers, like Mari Smith and and Chris Ducker and Pat Flynn. A lot of them have built social media communities and connecting with folks with learning, and a lot of those communities have chat and other sorts of collaborative items, and we're incorporating all of that. And it's going to
Cool.
be very focused on banking, so we're not going to go outside of our lane. I've tried that in the past, and those always don't work so well. So I know what we do really good, and I like to chase squirrels, and sometimes it's hard to say no. But we're realizing that this is really where we were meant to be. This is what I was meant to do, and so we're really excited. And it's going to evolve. It's probably going to look different in 12 months than what I thought it was going to look like right now. But that's the cool part about it, is I'm totally open to being flexible. And you've already shared some good ideas, and I've gotten some good feedback from some others. So I'm already thinking of, the 2.0 updates and what's going to shift. But I'm really excited about it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of chasing squirrels and
Yeah.
all the new things out there, sometimes for those of you who don't know Eric and I well, you don't know that when we text or chat, usually one of us has come up with something new, or we've found a new social media tool. I think we both follow each other now on TikTok, which feels
Yep.
weird to say. So that's
Who would
certainly
have
been
thought?
right. Look at us.
Yeah.
Look at us.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm almost 50. Don't tell anybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we get called out on TikTok apparently because old people aren't supposed to be there, but it is what it is.
It is, and I think there's a lot of platforms like that. I'm on Lasso as well, which is Facebook's alternative to TikTok. Don't know if have you checked.
And it is very, very similar. And like you said, mostly Brazilian people, because that's apparently where that's pretty popular. And I was going to ask you the name of that Vine replacement, and for people that don't remember even what Vine is, but I haven't jumped into that one yet, but I've checked out some stuff there. But I think you need to share that one with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I miss Vine, but they started up, a new one called Byte, BYTE, and it's got kind of like a square and circle on it. I wanted to remember what that logo looked like. It's kind of like purple with those on there, and it is Vine again. I mean, it's the same thing that it was.
So if people don't remember what Vine was, because it kind of had somewhat of a short lifespan in the grand scheme of things, what do you do on it? What's different between that and Periscope or TikTok, or I'm not even going to say MySpace, because I was not on MySpace. Just kind of make that clear. But
good disclaimer.
Anyway.
Good disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, Vine, I really liked because they really pioneered this idea of short videos. So theirs were 6-second videos. And then, you could do sound. You could also, just like you can do on other platforms like TikTok now, you could press down the record button and then let up. And so you could do stop action, right? So I could top, top, sort of like,
Oh,
sort of develop my own thing. Or, you could make a jump action where, maybe all of a sudden something appears into the screen because you weren't recording until then. So a lot of people got really creative with that very short format. I had a friend who had like 10,000 followers on Vine, got to go to like some of the Vine, sort of creator convention stuff. And, I think it was a really cool platform for all of that, which was a lot of fun, but it was then bought by Twitter, and Twitter essentially shut it down, which was sad. So unlike Periscope that they kind of kept, Vine they just dropped. And so the original creator of Vine must have, I'm guessing that he had like a length of time in his non-compete, and finally he said, "I'm back at it.
I'm back at it.
We're bringing the same thing back." And so who knows, maybe he'll sell to Facebook or something. But Instagram actually was one of the killers of it, because Vine, you could only do 6 seconds. And when Instagram first came out, they just doubled it. They just said, you can get 12 seconds on here.
Yeah.
And just to give people that much more freedom. And then, of course, they had all of the other flexibility and tooling and great technology behind Instagram.
Yep.
But that's what Facebook's model is, to try to kill TikTok as well, is to replicate it identically. And then you may notice I've started noticing push notifications for Lasso, within the Facebook app. So they're trying to push me notifications to get me to log in more frequently. So they're placing ads on their own platform to get me to go to Lasso. But interestingly enough, Facebook launched in Brazil because that's like their third largest market, I think, for Facebook. Yeah. So. Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to read it all before today's discussion, but I thought I caught something where Zuckerberg made an announcement that he was going to release, or they were going to release personal shoppers or some sort of a shopping service. And I don't know whether that came from the Onion and I was just being duped, or if it was actually legitimate, like, oh, you can send us a note, almost back to, what was the Facebook? It had a James Bond name associated with it. Moneypenny, where you could text in using Facebook Messenger, and they had real people that could look things up for you, and that ended up going by the wayside. But it's paying attention to everything that's shifting. We've evolved with Linked Banker. Facebook's doing stuff. New social platforms are coming out, and we jumped on it. I don't do a lot personally, but Ellie from our team kind of has led the charge, and we've got a powered by WSI TikTok. And that's been our experimentation, that as people are on their phones, just browsing around, let's just have some fun and see if we can do some stuff. And I've gotten comments from some of my friends on Facebook that, thanks for the chuckle, I needed that, or had a rough day and you made me laugh. And so, sometimes you just got to 10 or 15% that you just experiment with just to see what happens. And we're embracing that a little bit too.
That's awesome. Well, Tuesday, I've got Scott Bentley coming in from Maryland. He's a mortgage loan officer, and I would challenge any banker to see if there's a banker with more following on TikTok than Scott. He's crushing it on TikTok. We're actually going to talk a little bit about how much he's selling on TikTok, which I think is really fun for a lot of bankers that will be a bit apprehensive. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So if there's any bankers on TikTok, post it in the comments. I'd love to see some other examples. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, look for us. I think your handle is just Eric Cook on Twitter. Is that right? Or on TikTok?
I think it's TikTok.Eric Cook or TikTok_Eric Cook. See how much I use it. Go to Powered by WSI. That's easier to remember, and there's more stuff there. I've got a couple of golden retriever videos on mine, but you'll find me.
Cool. Well, my office has been challenging me to make TikTok, so I'm in now. Shameless plugs on TikTok.
Nice.
Now, I'd love to jump into of where do you see some of the trends right now that bankers have, for by and large, they've moved through a lot of the PPP lending programs, and now social media has been a huge component for a lot of that communication. But where should bankers be focused here over the next, we'll say, few months
Yeah,
on
well,
social media?
I think the one thing that this, the shelter in place, the closed offices, the social distancing, and the PPP and the SBA, I mean, the fact that most banks have generated more loans in a shortest amount of time without customers being able to come in and having to do it for the most part all electronically. And a lot of the communication has been through social media. I think it's validated the business case that social technology and the communication and awareness that it creates has a legitimate place in a business, in a banking strategy. And I would encourage people to figure out, and when I do these marketing forums, one of the questions is there anything that's happened over the last 2 months that you have had to develop, deploy, or embrace that has merit that you will continue to do even when you can come back? And a lot of people have said senior management has changed their tune on social media. They realize now it's not just watching funny cat videos, chasing lasers, and sharing funny gifs, and that has an element to it, and that's what makes it fun. But at the end of the day, consumers are getting information. It's a way to communicate. It's where people are. And I think the big shift that we're recommending with our clients and any banker that'll listen to me is, how can you take what's happened and deploy that into your culture? How can you teach your employees? How can you train them? How can you enable and empower them to be part of that social conversation and not feel like they have to just regurgitate a bunch of bank speak that's compliance approved, but talk about stuff that maybe doesn't have anything to do with banking, but everything to do about people and what's going on. Michigan, you probably have heard in the news, lots of flooding, lots of rain, lots of people. If I were a banker, I would be, not trying to capitalize on the business opportunities there, if there are any, but just sharing empathetic, sympathetic content, and how can I help and how can I share, and bringing people together. And if you build relationships and you add value, then people will trust you, and that's going to give you an opportunity to do business with them. And, all too often bankers are trying to do that with handcuffs on, and I think this is finally the sign that we'll turn that, hopefully, and figure out a way to make it part of an organizational effort and bring it into the culture. So yeah. I don't know. I'd ask the same question of you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're hearing some weird audio from you, Eric. I'm not sure if that's an internet issue or some other. It's starting to get really fuzzy. I don't think that's happening on my end, but it sounds like, I don't know if it's internet or what it is. So if you got anything you can check there, do a quick check. And while you're doing that, I'll answer your question too. Where we see kind of social media going. I think you're absolutely right. One of the things we're seeing is that one-to-one communication is really ramping up. And we're also seeing that really from a referral standpoint, social media is such a great piece for a lot of loan officers and individuals, because there's no easy way to transfer a referral a lot of times without it. It's the easiest way to say, hey, check out my friend. His name's Adam. He happens to be my loan officer. Here's who he is. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're able to see, Adam, his interests and his following, and, the fact that his office is 10 blocks, from my house. So, those are things that, we can just transfer a lot easier when we can see a little bit of context behind the person before we're transferring that referral. I think your audio is better now.
Good. Sorry about that. So one of the other events that I got a chance to actually be at before the world shut down and made us all stay home is the Social Media Marketing World 2020. And their big thing was the growth and adoption of video, and how that as a relationship tool, because that provides that one-on-one feeling. It provides a better way of conveying personality. When we're talking, if I make a joke and I don't hear anything, if I see you smile, then I know you got it. Whereas if I say something and, we're not sharing facial expressions, we've actually had our very first bank client ever require during our web development meetings that our entire team and her entire team has their webcams turned on so everybody can see each other. And prior to this, we'd get on a webinar, we'd screen share, and we'd go through stuff and talk about things because, you know, we do work all over the country and we can't drive at every place. But the communications director, who's our kind of head there, said, I want everybody to see everybody. I want relationships built. This is a partnership. And, you know, we've got one developer who's waiting for a webcam. You can't buy a webcam on the internet now because everybody and their brother bought one. So he's the lone wolf that's not part of the web. But, you know, it's that one-to-one feel, like you said, and it's that the ways to leverage video, whether it's live video or recorded video, it's going to tell your brand story that much better and give people that much greater opportunity to get to know, like, they know you before they even contact you and ask you to service their banking needs.
Yeah. No, I love that. You know, we always have this mantra of saying, hey, photo or it didn't happen, right? When you're sending out your whole team, like, hey, you know, if I sent you out to a volunteer activity or to the chamber function, if you didn't take a photo, then like,
yep,
you must have been just skipping work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like, you know, we're always trying to do those. And I see Sarah just posted a little question in here. She says, any tips for convincing fellow employees to get on board doing live videos, and how important is that for a bank? What's your take on that, Eric?
Well, live video is intimidating, and, you know, I'll be the first to admit I don't have a ton of them out there, and I need to do a better job of that. So, you know, just getting to the point where you're comfortable, testing it out and playing with it, and just picking up your phone and talking into your phone, even if all you do is you talk into your phone, you watch the video and you delete it. And you do that 5 times, 15 times, 20 times. You know, the first couple of videos that I did, I deleted because I didn't want them, or I'll do a TikTok and I'll go back and I'll look and I've got like 17 different variations. And I'm like, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. But I think having an understanding that the internet is forgiving. And I think one of the reasons why TikTok is so popular is because of its imperfections and because of the genuineness and the realness that's there. You know, there's a lot of people that, you know, the videos don't end at the right time. They don't start at the right time. They try to lip sync and it's not right. And that creates kind of a human element to it. And you know that it's sometimes Instagram and some of the others can have almost too much of a perfectionist feel. Like, oh man, I wish my life was that good. You know, they're always beautiful and always well lit. And, you know, the ability to be comfortable, and you don't have to jump in with a live video right off of the bat. If you want to do live, what I'm suggesting is present what you're going to do and say, hey, if there's things that you're interested in knowing, comment, and we're going to go live on Friday afternoon. We're going to answer your questions, but let us know what you want to talk about so that you don't have to jump in and assume that you're just going to pull stuff out of the air and know what to chat about. You give your customers, you give your audience an opportunity to tell you what they want to know. And then that's going to give you the opportunity to then just answer their questions and have a conversation. And then it'll become very natural and you'll be able to see other people commenting and being a part of it. And at the end of the day, if the live stream doesn't go the way that you wanted it, you know what? You've always got that little trash can and you can click on it and it disappears and it's a learning lesson. But, you know, just being comfortable with taking that first step is the hardest part. But really, once that happens, you'll realize that it's really not as scary as what you thought.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Sort of pulling the trigger on, you know, taking some videos, even if they're not live first. And then, you know, you can kind of work your way up to a little bit better, you know, production quality, things like that. We're certainly learning as we're doing these.
Oh, sure.
Which I think you pointed to the other point, which is vulnerability on social media is a huge relationship builder. And we've seen it at a high level with this latest PPP sort of, we'll call it PPP crisis, because it really has been in that, you know, a lot of banks have had to learn a lot and they're learning in front of their customers, which is a hard moment.
Yeah.
But being an entrepreneur on the other end, I've told several of our guests that's a really encouraging thing for me to see bankers learning and sharing that there's struggle in it.
Yeah.
Because like then I realize, hey, they don't have it all figured out either.
Yep.
And that's somebody I can trust as an entrepreneur who had to start out with,
Yeah.
alone there.
Well, and even in the early days of, well, what do you talk about? What are the things that build value from a video perspective? A lot of people recommend, behind the scenes videos, stuff that the general public doesn't see. Now, I'm not saying take your camera into the vault and get copies of all your account numbers and whatnot, but if you've got a break room and it's somebody's birthday and you bring in a cake, you can videotape that and share the joy that you have with each other and the culture that you have embraced. And, when we can all get back together and enjoy birthday cake, that would be something kind of fun to do. So, I see there's another comment there. I'm just trying to read it real quick.
Yeah. Gail says, we're struggling with getting employees to even get on board with doing videos that aren't live, that we can edit. Are there other bankers struggling with getting their fellow bankers to do even edited videos? And I think we are seeing that. Like,
Yeah.
I think we do hear that relatively frequently. And Donna suggests maybe a video testimonial from a great customer.
Yep.
I think that's a great way to do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's platforms out there that are making video editing a lot easier. You used to be, you had to find a millennial that had a MacBook Pro and, and I have a Mac and I don't even use it, but, Movie Maker, whatever it is. But we use a platform called Wave Video. There's another one out there, I think Promo. There's a lot of online editors where you can upload a video, you can edit it, you can add music, you can put text over the top of it. They're fun to use. They're not difficult. And it's almost like building a PowerPoint in today's day and age. And if somebody steps on their tongue and they say something wrong, you might want to edit that out. You might want to leave it in because you know what? Not everybody always says exactly what they want to say. And sometimes people say the wrong thing and then they have to back up and go, oh, I didn't mean that. Or put that at the end as a blooper reel. I know that's one of my favorite parts about movies is I want to watch the blooper reel and see everybody mess up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, what would you say to I had a banker just recently who said, hey, we had a trainer come in that said, everything's got to be over video. You got to be producing videos like on a weekly basis as lenders. And he said, you know what? Some of these just didn't work very well.
Yeah.
How do you balance those two extremes out to the, hey, nobody's producing video, or we've got too much video and it's off brand?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to answer that with a black and white. And some of it, we've seen bankers, because there's that certain element of compliance and what you can and can't say. And it's very evident. And if you've ever seen it, and it's pretty obvious, neither one of us is working with a script because of how everything's rolling here. But it's pretty obvious when you're watching a video and someone on the other end is reading, if I'm looking down at my keyboard, hi, I would like to talk to you today about all the great home ownership opportunities available at, that's not doing you any favors. That's not doing your audience any favors. It needs to come from the heart. And it's not something that's easy to read a book on, or you just have to look at the camera and tell your story and be comfortable enough in what you know and let that happen. And the first 3 or 4 are going to be really dumb and they're going to look terrible. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I hate myself on camera. But over time, it's going to get easier and you're going to be able to embrace that, where just like I'm talking to you on a camera, I want to feel like I'm really talking to you in Lincoln, Nebraska at the Cornhusker. And we're just having a beer, talking about social media. And that's the feeling that the audience needs to have. And you just got to figure out a way that you can get to that point. Putting video out just for the sake of putting out video is not the solution. It's like anything else, you got to have purpose around it, and it's got to come across. And sometimes you might have to have the conversation like, Ben, that video is really not doing you any favors, and be okay with that. but have that conversation beforehand so people don't create content and then have to be embarrassed by it or have to be told. It's a delicate thing because you're getting very personal when it comes to video, and that needs to come across. I don't know. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I think you're right. We always look at the brand side of it, right? Is, hey, if I'm representing the bank and I'm producing a video, I want it to both represent my personal brand
Yep.
and the brand of the bank at the same time. I always call it the personal trust and brand trust that you're building there, but there's different terms for it. But I think when you can link those both together, if they were sort of concentric circles, the content that I want to create both
Yeah.
should,
Right
it
in the
should
middle.
should both they should intersect and overlap in that spot that says,
Yep.
hey, this both represents the brand of the bank and it represents who I am, which oftentimes it's natural to sell that way. I think what
Yeah.
we're seeing is we have a lot of bankers that we work with that are saying, I've been really used to selling in this sort of format in a room across the table from someone, and I was very successful in that format. And now I'm having to figure out how to transition that to video or to webinars, whatever those are.
Yep.
And it's a challenge at first.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that will fall back into the organization and making sure that you set the bare expectations, and there's probably not a lot of them, but the absolute do's and the absolute don'ts of any sort of video. So, video, if you want it to be around, it's permanent. So if you say something in a video that's not right, if I'm sitting across the table from you and I give you an interest rate and I don't give you the APR, APY, nobody can call that into question down the road and say I violated, truth in lending, truth in savings, whatever the case is. If I do a video and I talk about that, those are the sorts of things that you want to make sure people know. And how do you answer those questions without putting yourself in hot water or giving an interest rate or info that could be dated? So you need to think about evergreen content. Oh, that's a great question, Ben. We've got a rates page on our website. You can visit our bank at blah, blah, blah. And that'll give you access to all of our current rate information. And by the way, there's a cool little button on there that you can click to start your application online and pick my name from the drop down, and I'll personally help you with your mortgage loan. That type of response is way better than, oh, let me check the rates and it's this and here's this. You've made it compliant, you've made it evergreen, and you've added a little personality to it. And that's going to come across a whole lot better than the robotic response that I think a lot of times we think we need to give because we need to answer the direct question as opposed to providing information that can help them find it themselves.
So we talked a little bit about TikTok, but we're seeing most banks on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Which of those four are most important for banks to be on, and why?
Well, my standard answer to that is it depends on where your customers are. If you're going to go fishing, you need to figure out where the fish are or you're not going to eat dinner. So if you are a primary commercial bank, I'd say you're probably spending more time on LinkedIn demonstrating professional subject matter expertise and engaging in conversations and being part of the dialogue there. If you are in a community with a lot of young people and you want to embrace the college life and be relevant and hip and cool, you probably need to play around and have some fun with TikTok. And, your discussion on Tuesday with the gentleman that does mortgage loans primarily for a certain demographic that is very interested in what's going on TikTok, that's a strategy that I would wholeheartedly recommend to him because obviously it's worked really well. If I'm talking to another bank and recommend TikTok, I can't say that because I don't know if that's where their market is. So any bank that asks that question, any business, but particularly banks, tells me that they haven't thought far enough backwards as to understanding where their customers are and where the people are that they want to influence and have that conversation. It's like saying, well, what nightclub should I go to tonight? Or what conference should I register for? Well, there's lots of nightclubs and lots of conferences, but where are you going to get the most value? Where are your friends hanging out? Where are you going to be able to provide the most value? That's where you want to go. And then
Yeah.
that's going to drive your decision to determine which platform you should go into.
Yeah, we're getting some weird echo-ness from you again on that audio. Not sure what that is. But as we kind of look at what's next, sort of going through this summer. Summer's traditionally a little bit of a different time for a bank, right? We've got a lot of outdoor activities. We've talked about how do you virtualize some of those events.
Yep.
I think there's a number of ways for us to be thinking about what the summer looks like. If you're managing a bank's marketing right now for the summer, what are you looking at doing?
I would try to make sure that I, as well as key individuals within the bank, fully embrace video, and to pull people into that experience. It's not the same as coming to a picnic, but you're not going to have the relationship building opportunities that you would have had last year at this time. So how do you convey the relationship, the personality? Teach your CEO how to take video with their iPhone and get them grilling out on the weekend, and just let people see the real people that are there. They're not going to get to see as much of you in the real world. They need to see you otherwise. And there's a plethora of different ways to obviously do that. But video, I think, is going to go to the top, and that every platform that you've mentioned has got a video component. Facebook has got live. They've got pre-recorded. You can promote and boost through ads. Instagram's got live. You can stream it and put it out to IGTV so it lives forever. Twitter and Periscope, YouTube, TikTok, Byte, if you want to play around with that. And, so figuring out how you can tell your story in a way that still allows for people to really get to know you intimately, and figuring out what works best for your culture, I think, is at the top of your list.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice, especially through the summer, is embracing video, jumping in there, whatever that format is, even if it's good video in the office or, going out to grill some burgers. I love that concept. I might have to videotape myself grilling some burgers here later.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, same. Now, Eric, how can we follow you? Social media, text message. I know you're doing some with text messages.
Yes.
How can we be engaged with you?
Yep. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Eric Cook MBA, but and Facebook and Twitter, Eric Cook. So I should be pretty findable. But I am pretty excited. I got into a new platform called Community, community.com. If you're familiar with Gary V, the prognosticator out in New Jersey that has got some pretty colorful language. I was front row at Financial Brain last year when he was the keynote kickoff. But Gary V talked about this platform called Community that I was listening to on a podcast on a mountain bike ride, and I wanted to learn about it. It's primarily, and I'm none of these, celebrities, artists, songwriters, none of that. I got nothing, man. I'm not an actor. But when you sign up for Community, they give you a phone number that you can provide people to text you. And it's a social network broadcast platform that gives you one-on-one connectivity with these people. And I was able to track down the owner via LinkedIn, convinced him that I needed to play with this because we had a bank that was looking at and using text messages. So if you want to send me a text message, send it to 269. Let me look at it, make sure I get it right. 269-248-5324. That'll come in. Yep.
What is it?
248-5324. So if you text that number, you'll get a response back. You'll go through the process of providing your info to get into the community. You can use a hashtag like hashtag the linked banker, and that'll put you into my linked banker community, or hashtag the cook dogs, and you'll get pictures of golden retrievers playing in the water this summer. But that'll populate my community platform, and then I'll be sharing text messages and updates and when the Linked Banker gets ready to go live and we release our first course, or we have a group mentorship session, you'll know about it. But you mentioned earlier in the conversation that one-on-one communication that you've seen, and this is an area that we're experimenting with as well, as a way to be able to have that direct connection with folks. And we're going to see what goes on. So who knows, maybe I'll be dropping an album and hanging out with Marshmello or something. Apparently he's a singer or something.
Nice. Well, we're looking forward to your album dropping.
Yes.
And Eric, it's been a great hour. It's amazing how fast that's flown by with all of the new stuff you've got going on. We learned about some new platforms. Next week, we've got 2 live streams. Tim Martinson and Kate Spelka, Bank Smart Kate, will both be on next Thursday,
awesome,
this same
by the
time.
way.
Fantastic. We're going to be talking about social media, the community of bankers, and then, of course, we've got our TikTok banker in on Tuesday.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks for the opportunity. I know we're a little over, but I figured if we're like 1 minute over, that's not bad. I was expecting this to go like 90 minutes with you. So it's always a pleasure.
I'm just going to turn it off so nobody else can watch us, and then we'll just chat for a while longer.
They call it the Oprah after the show. So the only way it could have been better if we'd done it from our mountain bikes, but maybe down the road.
Oh, yes, sometime soon.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Eric, thanks so much, and I appreciate you joining with us.
Cool. You rock, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
See ya.